Hey there, guys. I wanted to make a video today talking about how the internet and society in general makes flat earth look stupid, and it's not fair. It isn't fair to society as a whole to inhibit free thought the way that it is being inhibited. If nothing else, flat earth is a unique thought experiment that, if it truly doesn't have any merit, should be able to sit right next to the arguments of the scientific establishment and legitimately be overturned. Now, the scientific establishment will say we have overturned the flat earth argument. Well, then why don't we see any flat earth content when I Google things like, is the earth flat? Or flat earth? Doesn't matter what keyword I use, I'm going to come up with the same scientific establishment propaganda telling everybody else what flat earthers believe. And it's not what flat earthers believe, it's not what I believe. Anytime that I read something put out by the scientific establishment telling me what I allegedly believe, it is nothing like what I believe. And flat earthers are very educated. You know, that's the thing. A lot of people think, well, flat earthers just don't understand the heliocentric model. Ask a flat earther any question that you know about the heliocentric model, and I guarantee you they'll be able to answer it. Ask them any question that you don't know about the heliocentric model, and there's a 90% chance they're going to be able to answer it. That is because flat earthers who are serious about the conversation and who see the lie they studied to show themselves approved. They look into things, they educate themselves. I've educated myself. I have become basically an astrophysicist, but not really. But with the amount of knowledge that I have, I could sit down with an astrophysicist and pretend to be a globe proponent and a heliocentric model supporter, and even lie and say I went to school for that and get away with it, because that's how much I know about the heliocentric model from educating myself about it. There are huge problems with the heliocentric model that the heliocentric model knows. The first of which is the Big Bang. The Big Bang is ludicrous. Okay, look at the cosmological crisis. Look at the axis of evil. Look at the three-body problem, you know, when it comes down to the mechanism of gravity. There are so many problems with the way that the heliocentric model has described the universe that we live in that they've had to invent things, right? They've had to invent extra mass because things don't work the way that they should. So now they say, well, there's dark matter, dark energy, things that we can't measure, we can't see, we can't put them in a tube and contain them. We can't do really anything. Theoretically, we could magnetically or observe the resonance. But all of that stuff is pseudoscience. And the pseudoscience is there to provide an explanation for things that we clearly don't and never have understood. And that is my point, is if we're living in a creation, and Christians should definitely stand up for this. Okay, if we're living in a creation, then the laws of physics don't apply to the creator. Okay, because the creator would be beyond the entirety of the creation. If a creator came and created Earth, right, and every inhabitant on the earth and all of the animals on the earth, the creator would be beyond matter, energy, space, and time, all of the things that compose this existence. But people want to say they're skeptics, right? They want to say, hey, we're holding on to our religion, our skeptic religion, because we are skeptics, we're scientists. But there's nothing scientific about the scientific establishment. How can you base something off of an assumed map, right? And when you put that math on any other scale, when you go down to the quantum scale, there is no math for gravity. You have the strong force, you have the weak force, you have the electromagnetic force, but there is no gravity. And so clearly there's a problem with the way that we understand gravity. There's a problem with the crisis in cosmology. There's a problem with the three-body problem when you're looking at gravity. And it's all solved when you replace the little g and big G of gravity with the Almighty God, the creator of the universe. Because If we're living in a creation, the motions don't have to be described according to laws that we can put in a box, right? Things change. And, I was watching a video, PBS Spacetime video from 2018 that was talking about the crisis in cosmology and how, maybe a dark matter can be ununiform. Maybe it changes as we're looking around the universe. Another theory is maybe the universe is a sphere where literally it's laid out flat, right? But you could travel in one direction in the universe. And if you were to travel 90 billion years, you would end up in the same spot. Okay, so we could actually look with the telescope, according to this, and if it were laid out flat, and you could see the Earth on the other side. And that's the thing, is Earth literally could work like Pleasantville. We do not understand the mechanisms of the creation that we're living in. We're looking up at the sky. We're hypothesizing 2,000 years ago. We can see both motions. Maybe we're living on a sphere. Okay, that's a relevant hypothesis in science, but that's all it is. And what happened is that the church needed a way to explain these things, bought into the heliocentric model, and because the church is infallible, never ever backed off of it. And oh, what a tangled web we weave when we attempt to deceive. And that is what the scientific establishment has got itself into. And it's not that there are a bunch of scientists in the scientific establishment that are trying to deceive everyone. They have deceived themselves. Time and time again, the scientific establishment sees hardcore evidence that the heliocentric model is probably not an accurate model. And instead of re-examining things, they double down and they triple down. And the studies become biased. It becomes no longer true science. It becomes a political framework. Like the political framework in the United States. Look at what's going on there. Look at the games people play. Look at the power you have when you're a part of the establishment. And if you dare speak against the establishment, if you dare come out in public, your career is ruined. Okay, we've seen flat earth proponents, engineers like Brian Mullen and Jay Tolan is another example, an aerospace engineer that come out about the flat earth and are pressured to leave the flat earth community. They disappear with great evidence, great math to prove that, the heliocentric model, there are a lot of problems with this. The globe could not possibly be spinning if you were living on a globe. And if you're living on a globe that isn't spinning and the sky is moving around you every day, that leaves you the problem of gravity. And you could say, well, special relativity could fix that. And it could, theoretically. But again, you have the problem with gravity. You have the three-body problem. You have the problems with the mechanism of gravity. Gravity is not what we have proposed that it is. It is not even close to being an accurate theory, an accurate model. And that is what flat earth proponents are really pointing out above everything else. And this is a fun conversation. It's a conversation where you learn a tremendous amount about the world and the cosmos and the things going on around us, why those things are happening. You learn the equations of acceleration and objects in motion and how all of these things interrelate, things that we never thought were important when we were in school. That was my mentality. I'll never use any of this stuff. Well, I've gone back and I've learned all of this stuff because it's fascinating to think about. So it is a journey of education. This is not something where a bunch of stupid people get together and form a society that's full of disinformation, which is the only flat earth website that they'll link to on the first page of Google for any flat earth keyword that I've seen. Okay, so clearly there is an agenda here. If there wasn't an agenda, the most relevant results would be populated. The information that people are looking for would be populated. It is not Google's responsibility to take care of me as an individual. If Google wants to have that responsibility, have age verification on your website where people have to actually verify their age so that they can make their own decisions, right? But to completely squash the flat earth movement because, oh, well, people might believe the flat earth, put it up next to the scientific establishment. Put the scientific establishment link right here, put the flat earth link right here. And do you notice how if you would have asked this question 5 years ago, yes, the earth is a sphere. You ask it now, no, the earth is roughly a sphere. It's hilarious. It truly is because, there again, with the shape of the ground, you have major problems. You have some problems with the sky when you consider the shape of the ground. Everything doesn't really match up perfectly from the ground. While it is predictable, it's not based off of a ball. And, this channel proposes a completely different theory of how the sky works. There are flat earthers that propose different theories than I do about how the sky works, but it doesn't have to work on a ball, and especially not a spinning ball. Okay, I've proven that on this channel with the parabolic mirror. And so basically, guys, I'm going to click on this first article here, and you can see I've already clicked on it, but this is one of those skeptic websites. Again, you have the skeptic religion, I am scientific. No, the earth is round. The evidence for a spherical earth is overwhelming. Cubed. Okay. Most obviously, there are many thousands of images and videos of the earth from space, including a continually changing live stream view of the globe from the International Space Station. Now, here's something that's interesting. Okay, you hear flat earthers all the time talking about fisheye lenses, right? Well, this is a SpaceX video. Okay, and SpaceX is at altitude. I want you to look at where we are in the flight. Okay, this is where we've already deployed a bunch of satellites, right? Not we, I don't work for SpaceX, but SpaceX isn't going to hire a flat earther. But SpaceX does do us the courtesy of showing the flat wide-angle lens comparative to the fisheye lens. And they switch back and forth, which is why I love watching the SpaceX videos, because they go back and forth from one camera to the other camera so you can see the difference. Okay, Elon Musk has been talking about simulation theory for a while, or the simulation hypothesis. Why has the simulation hypothesis come up in Elon's conversation? You guys see the curve of the earth here? You see how curved the earth is? And then when we switch back, you see how curved the earth is from this angle? Okay, now watch when we go to the wide angle. This is a fisheye lens. You can tell by the way the ladder's bent. Look at the bend in the ladder. This is a fisheye meant to make the earth look like it's curved, and it's not. Let me fast forward because sometimes they stick on this for a while. All right, let's see if that one. Oh, darn it. All right, here we go. Flat. Wide angle lens. Look at how flat the horizon is. Look at how curved the horizon is. Okay, just because you see the ISS, which I believe in, I believe that orbit is possible, not based on the mechanism of gravity, but based on a different mechanism that we don't fully understand. And keep in mind, if the Bible is true, it's true about our enemy who is on the earth. It's true about the angels who are on the earth that are trying to deceive mankind. And mankind is easily deceived. Okay, we have thought about this. Oh, well, it's got to be a sphere. The church said, oh, it's got to be a sphere. The heliocentric model has to be true. Damage control, damage control. They quit believing what the Bible said because they didn't take the entire Bible into account. And now they say, well, maybe we were wrong. No, they're not going to say that because the church is infallible. Well, it's been fallible before, and I'm sorry, but it's fallible now. Just like the Bible is fallible. Okay, there are mistakes. The Bible was written by men. It is not a perfect book. It is not something that you can say, this is the Word of God, because Jesus is the Word of God. Because when you put God in a book, you put God in the Bible, God can't really operate beyond the Bible. And just like God is beyond our understanding when it comes to the creation, he's beyond our understanding when it comes to his mercy and when it comes to salvation. That's why the Bible says, judge not lest ye be judged. Don't judge somebody based on anything. Judge yourself. A righteous man is judged by no man, right? No man can judge a righteous man. Why? Because a righteous man is judging all things within himself. A righteous man is looking at his own life, saying, okay, this is what I believe and why. And that is why we are commanded in the Bible, if you're a Christian, to prove all things. We walk by faith and not by sight, right? What did the article just tell us? Well, there's overwhelming evidence of a globe. Look at the Earth from space. Look at the Earth from space through a wide-angle lens. Where did the evidence go? The evidence doesn't and hasn't ever really existed because people just accept what they're shown. All of the fake images of the globe, all of the different rendered, admitted by NASA. NASA admits that all of the images of the globe are painted by artists. Okay, we've all seen the Rob Simmons video, the NASA artist who created the 2007 iPhone image globe that ended up on the iPhone. He did a happy dance. Yeah, NASA pays people to render these things based on the data that NASA is giving them. And NASA is so segmented. Guys, the deception is not covering thousands of people. How many people, can you look out at the world and say, oh, I can tell it's a sphere? Well, I can see thunderstorms 500 miles away on the horizon. And you know what? When I'm standing on the ocean, I have never seen the anvil of a thunderstorm that's 60,000 feet come up over the horizon. They always compress to the horizon. They get really small on the horizon until they're so small on the horizon that they disappear. Now, sometimes ships will appear to sink below the horizon. Sometimes it'll appear that they're floating above the horizon. And sometimes it'll appear that from 20 or 25 miles away, that they're right on the horizon where they should be. It depends on the atmospheric conditions, which are variable. So all of these so-called evidences that are said, by the scientific establishment prove that we're living in a globe, don't prove anything at all. When you open your eyes and when you look for yourself, okay, when you examine things the way they actually are. And, I don't think Neil deGrasse Tyson is lying. People will say, oh, Neil deGrasse Tyson. No, he's not lying. Bill Nye, the science guy, is not lying. These people believe they're living on a spinning ball that's flying through space at 70,000 miles an hour because that is what they're told. And they're just like you. Right? The math of the sky works. Do you think Bill Nye is going to take a P1000 and try to prove that the Earth is flat? No. Is Bill Nye going to look and think about the gradient pressure and the second law of thermodynamics, entropy, all of these things, and assume that, well, the Earth couldn't possibly be flying through space with all of this gas? I mean, it's not connected to the surface, so eventually it would be all blown out into space. No, he's not. He gets a little explanation. Well, gas is produced by the Earth, blah, blah, blah. It is continually going out into space. Okay, that's a good enough explanation because Bill Nye, like the rest of the scientific establishment, has doubled down on the globe. But freedom, guys, freedom of thought. What if we could figure out how to levitate stones and move them hundreds of miles like they used to do in the ancient world? What if we could figure out new technologies based on the real understanding instead of an assumption of gravity, an assumption of the Big Bang, an assumption of the heliocentric model? Well, we look up at the sky and God cannot possibly be real because I want to live the way I want to live. But those of you who are saying that, you're just as moral as I am. You know the difference between right and wrong. 90% of the people know that it's wrong to kill somebody, and they're not going to do it. Okay? 90% of the people know that it's wrong to lie, and while we might lie, I myself included, we know that it's wrong and we try not to lie. And if we lie, we feel guilty about it. At least I do. If I tell a lie, I feel guilty about telling a lie because I know that lying is wrong. I know that it's wrong to covet another woman when I'm married, or if I wasn't married, to covet my neighbor's wife. We know those things are wrong. So morality, doesn't really have anything to do with what we're willing to accept. It's more to do with pride. It's more to do with all the perceived knowledge. But if your knowledge is based on an assumption, it's not real knowledge. Everything that you believe is wrong. And what if, for instance, those of you who are thinking about the simulation hypothesis, anybody in the scientific establishment who thinks about it, if you are living in a simulation, imagine that you've plugged into this game in front of a national audience and you're determining based on evidence what the shape of the earth is. And right now, because you're being dishonest, you're losing the game in front of billions of people. And billions of people are seeing how, yourself in the video game isn't all that smart, right? Because the rules of the game were created beforehand to see how smart you are. Are you going to believe and go along with what you're told, or are you going to prove it? Actually prove it. And don't just say, oh, I took a picture of the curve and therefore it's proved. Guys, just because the earth is curved doesn't mean it's a ball. Okay? For one, the pictures of curvature come way too late for it to be a ball. And the atmospheric effects that we've proven and that many flat earthers have proven that happen at a distance proves we're probably not living on a ball. We're looking through water. If you look through the ocean as you're going down scuba diving, the sun is pushed to the horizon. The sun will eventually set in the ocean as you go down, even though it's right above your head, because you're looking through water and water is pushing that sun to the horizon until that sun completely disappears and you're in complete darkness, just 600 meters down. There's hardly any light. You wouldn't perceive it. You would be in the blackest black that you've ever been in. So the philosophy of the scientific establishment and the site, okay, all of these know-it-alls getting on here writing articles and saying, flat earthers are stupid. Look at all the knowledge I have. Okay, well, flat earthers have just as much knowledge as you have. Any flat earther could write the article based on the heliocentric understanding and write it better. Okay? A lot of them, not any, but many flat earthers could write an article about the heliocentric model and the quote unquote proofs of the heliocentric model better than the globe proponents out there writing the articles, who are getting their information from NASA and they're parroting it. They're repeating it verbatim, exactly as it is. No independent thought at all. Look at major news headlines. Notice how all of the news headlines are exactly the same. It's the same story written by the same news organization without a different twist. And a lot of that is because of the way that our media establishment is set up. But you should be able to have your own opinion about an event and have just as much of a platform as someone else with the narrative, right? Because the narrative isn't always right. As a matter of fact, in today's world, it's majoritarily wrong. So anyway, guys, I got off kind of on a tangent, but don't believe everything you see and think for yourself. And to anybody out there who thinks that, that Google is being fair, reconsider that. Reconsider, why is the entire establishment across the board quenching the flat earth debate? And that's the problem. People will read that article and they'll say, oh, flat earthers believe that. Flat earthers believe that. But it's the scientific establishment telling you what we believe. And the scientific establishment doesn't know what we believe. No one from the scientific establishment has called me to ask me what I believe about the flat earth. But they're writing articles saying what we believe. Flat earthers believe this. Flat earthers believe that. Here's why that's not true. With no debate, with no ability for the flat earth argument to stand up and say, hey, wait a minute, it's like with the sky argument. It could not possibly work on anything but a globe. Well, we've proven you wrong. Getting ready to prove you wrong again, and again, and again, and again.